All right. So, see my little quarter-sized circle there? Tell me your situation in as few words that I can fit into that circle.
Attempted rape at gunpoint.
Okay, that's can we? That's I'm not gonna get all that in there. You know, I write
How
really
about
horrible.
um, robbed at gunpoint?
Okay, well, let's see. We could do rape at gunpoint.
It was attempted, but
Okay, attempt. Let's see if I can get it in here.
attempted rape. That's fine.
Okay, I got it in there.
Okay.
All right. So, at the time this happened, how distressing was it to you at that moment?
9.
9. Okay, and as you sit here with me today, sometime later,
A 1.
1. So it was a 9, now it's a 1. The difference between 9 and 1 is pretty significant. So you've made a lot of movement from that 9 to a 1. How long ago was this incident? So we know when to kind of organize it.
It was about 30 years ago.
So in 30 years, you've taken it from a 9 to a 1. How long has it been at 1?
25, 30 years. I mean, long time.
So you basically that first 5 or 6 years after you took it from 9 to a 1
Yeah.
fairly soon, and it's just stayed 1. Okay, good. So what's one of the very first things you actively did to move it from that 9 towards a 1?
So I would say, well, the first thing I did is I prayed
Okay, so
at the moment. And I
wait a minute. Let me kind of. So you prayed. Okay. What was the next thing you did?
I made a decision. So I was actually a missionary at this time, and I had a companion with me, and she was in the back seat, and the guy had pulled a gun.
So
On me.
what was the next thing you did
So I
To
had
move-
to make a
move-
decision
to move? Okay, so you made a decision. Okay.
to save her from being raped.
Okay. What's the next thing you did?
A lot of reflection
Okay.
and realizing that it was an experience that I just learned a ton from. I learned it. So I think it was reflecting to learn.
Okay. So the three things that were the primary things that you did was you prayed in the moment, you analyzed the situation and made a decision. That was the second one. And you began to reflect on what you learned from the situation. Those are the first three.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you think about those three, which is the one you'd like to start talking about first?
Making the decision to protect my companion.
This situation was happening and you made a decision. So what was your criteria for making the decision? What was one of the major pieces of that criteria for you?
I knew that I was the one that had gotten us into that situation, and it was my responsibility to get us out.
Okay, so you accepted, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Responsibility for your friend. Okay. What else? What's the next criteria you used for decision making?
I really remember that I had to think in the moment, when you had a gun in my face, I had to decide what's more important here, and I was able to make that decision that she was more important than what if he decided to shoot me.
So there's a couple of things. Can I separate them?
Yeah.
One was that you realized you were in danger, and you decided that you would take this risk. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
To save somebody else, which is kind of what is over here. And so part of that was deciding that their life was more important than yours.
I guess so. I just, making that decision, I didn't feel afraid anymore.
Okay. Once you decided that their life mattered most, that that was the, am I understanding that right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then you had the situation, you made that decision. What is the next decision that led to? Or what element or criteria was the next piece of your decision-making process?
Well, I think in that decision, making that decision, really just took away the fear. So it gave me more courage moving forward, because
So you found that deciding gave you courage?
yeah.
Okay. Would there be a better word to use than courage? I mean, I like courage, but I just figured I'd ask.
Courage or fearless. I felt fearless after that to
Okay.
face him.
So those are three kind of different criteria. And what that reflects is that there was a number of other things that are layered in each of these things. So tell me a little bit about you said fear went away when you felt this, when you made this decision.
Yeah.
And you decided to act. Was it the decision that made it, that gave you the courage, or was it the fact that you decided you would act that brought the courage in there?
I guess acting on it for sure, yeah.
So it wasn't just the decision itself, it was deciding what action to take.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the first action you took?
So he had turned the gun back on her and told her to take her skirt off, and I said, no, she's not going to do that. And then he pointed the gun at me and he said, then he told me to do it, and I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And I don't know why, because this was like didn't even feel like me, but he had the gun on me, and I was like, that doesn't scare us. And he's like, why? And I said, because God's with us. And I guess it was just a decision that I had made, but I didn't know, it just came out. And then he didn't know what to do. And
So wait a minute.
sorry, what was your question?
No, that's fine. So you said, you took the action of saying, no, we're not going to do that. She's not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And you could feel a shift in the situation when that happened?
Yeah.
So how would you define the shift?
He lost power over us. And so I guess I felt I knew that, we were in control of the situation.
Okay, so you made a decision that took power away from this guy, and you could sense the feeling of that.
Absolutely.
So did you take his power away, or did you assert your own?
I asserted my own.
So you were able to assert. I don't really like the way this states, but let me see if it, you asserted your own strength. I'm not getting that, that's not quite how it feels. How would you change the wording of that?
I drew a boundary.
Boundary, you asserted your boundary.
Maybe.
Is that better than strength?
Either one works for me.
Is there another one that really just kind of zings when you think of it?
I guess just power.
So you asserted your power.
Yeah.
You like that better than strength?
Yeah,
Or
I
okay.
guess so.
So I'm going to do this and scribble this out here. Assert your power. Now, do I want to put little asterisks behind this? Was it one of those?
Sure, yeah.
So how many should I add?
2.
Okay. All right. So that's, quite a bit of the elements around the decision-making piece. Which of these other 2 do we want to go to?
Where are they again?
You prayed and you were doing post-events reflections.
The reflections. That was big.
Okay. So what are 2 or 3 of the most important reflections you remember making about your learning here?
So the first one was that I was just so shocked about how he just gave up his power once he knew that his threat to shoot us wasn't going to work. He totally gave it up. And so I thought for so long about just the how we don't need to let fear control us because it's not really even a thing.
Okay. So let's kind of shorten that up into few words. I love this statement. And if I reworded it, it would get too wordy.
So the reflection was that fear is just a tool to control.
So you were surprised that fear is just a tool?
Yeah.
Okay. If we call it a tool, does that mean we can use it for, good and evil, so to speak?
I think I think fear is always a tool of evil in my mind.
So, okay. So this was, you were surprised that that fear, that he was using, the person was using fear as a tool.
Yeah.
Okay. So this isn't really about you asserting yet.
Yeah, it was about that I realized because I asserted myself that I just stepped right over his power or his courage that he had with the gun in my face. All of a sudden it was totally gone. He put the gun down and didn't know what to do. So it was asserting, this goes into the second one. The second one was that I realized.
Others surprised when fear is being used as a tool and doesn't work. How about that?
Yeah. That doesn't work.
I know that's really wordy, but I'm trying to get the idea down.
I'm not helping you any here. I'm trying.
So what else? What other reflection? What's another reflection you made?
So this really led me to my passion, which is to study fear and love. And so the second one I realized was that because my love for her was greater than losing my life at the moment, I didn't even care. It was just a weird thing. So I learned the power of love.
So one of the things that you got from this experience that was pretty terrifying initially was that, and help me kind of word this a little bit, love was more powerful than fear. Love was more...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Love is more powerful than fear.
All right. So for the reflections we have, they were surprised when fear used as a tool didn't work, and you were kind of surprised to discover that love is more powerful than fear. Um, is that nuanced enough? Does it need more?
It doesn't feel as strong as it feels inside of me.
So what might add to
Love.
this?
Love obliterates fear. Love drives out fear. Obliterates, I think.
Okay, so we're gonna love. Love is love. Can we make it simple like that? Love
I like it.
obliterates fear. Does that feel right?
Yeah.
Is that more nuanced for you?
That feels
Okay.
what it feels like to me.
What's the next reflection that helped you kind of move that from that 9 to a 1?
So the other thing that I reflected on is that being prepared in the moment makes all the difference. So I can't really take credit for this because I really felt like God prepared me 2 weeks before that happened with certain stories that were going on in my mind that brought me to the decision that I knew if something like that would happen, that I would stand up. And he prepared me for that for 2 weeks. So that was the other reflection, was being prepared, knowing what kind of decision you're going to make if something like that happens makes all the difference in that kind of situation.
So prepared, as I'm hearing this, the nuance that I'm picking up is that it's not just pre-planning, it's pre-deciding.
Yeah.
So which of those is more powerful, pre-planning or pre-deciding?
Deciding.
So if we were to score them, A, B, A, B, C, A would be pre-deciding, would be, what would be B?
I don't think I'm understanding what your question is.
So you said to be prepared, you did pre-deciding.
Yeah.
And would there be that, if that was the most important thing, would there be something that was less that would also kind of be nuanced into here?
I think it would say like pre-deciding what your values are, like what's most
So
important.
value clarification,
Yeah.
or I'm just going to call
What my
it
values
values clear. How about that?
Yep.
So that would be one. Would there be another? Because this one seems kind of nuanced to me. I'm trying to make sure I understand it.
I don't think so. I think it's just the idea. What I learned from it was just making a decision beforehand what your values are, so that when you get into a situation like that,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy actually to make the decision.
Some people might think that that's integrity or congruence or any of the other alphabets of the way we look at that. But for you, how would you see it? Is it a integrity to value, or is it something different?
I'm not helping you here because I just keep going back to that decision. It's just a decision beforehand.
Okay. So how did you make that decision beforehand?
Like I said, God really helped me to kind of like go through scenarios in my mind that were actually similar to what was going to happen. So I really made the decision before that day came.
Okay.
It might have even been the day before. It was that much preparedness. It was just right on time. But I remember making that decision in my head. If this happened, I would stand up.
Okay.
And so
when the time came, you didn't really have to spend a lot of time deciding because it was already
it
decided.
was already decided.
Okay. All right. We've done pretty good with that one. Let's go to the first one you started with, which is the last one we're covering.
Okay.
You prayed.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit about how did that help you begin to bring it down from a 9 to the 1 it is now?
I felt a lot of I want to say embarrassment, but guilty about getting us into that situation. That was my fault that we got into that situation. So I was actually looking down when he drew the gun, and my companion in the back, she, gasped, and I just knew in my mind that he'd pulled a gun. And so without even looking up, I was still down like this, and I just started praying, and I really felt angels arrive. Like I felt that around us. So I felt like it was, I got us into this situation, and I need help because I don't know what to do here. So I think I'm not answering your question.
No, you're doing fine. I'm going to break it down a little bit. So I'm assuming that you must have had some kind of prayer-built relationship before this moment.
For sure.
So how did you learn to, goes back even before this event, because you prayed, and there's that saying, there are no unbelievers in foxholes, but it's a World War II saying.
Yes.
But the reality is you prayed, and even though you said that's what you did first, it seems like you recognized that you'd made an error in judgment and you needed help to address it. Is that what
Yeah.
you told me?
Yeah.
So, and then you felt like you actually got some relief.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So was this the first time you had an experience like that where you actually felt like you were getting an immediate response? Or had it just been something that had happened a number of times prior?
I definitely have had experiences where I had gotten responses, but nothing where I felt angels arrive and like a presence there to protect us.
So this was the most intense
Absolutely.
experience you'd had with prayer up until this time.
Yeah.
So walk me through again what the effect of having this feeling was.
Having the feeling
Of safety, protection.
Yeah, just huge to know that you're not alone in that kind of situation.
Okay, so you felt
Supported.
felt supported?
Yeah.
Okay. And what else?
Vulnerable, because I knew it was my fault.
So I'm going to play with the word fault a little bit.
Okay.
Was it, because a lot of times when people say fault, they equate that with a bad decision, or was it really a bad thing that were you at fault?
Yes.
Or was it a mistake in reading the situation?
No.
You said,
Yeah. We were hitchhiking. We're not supposed to be hitchhiking in Venezuela. Not a good idea.
yeah,
So.
I wouldn't do that here.
Right? Most people would not.
So, interesting. You, even though you were doing something that you knew was dangerous, you you still used prayer to kind of redress that.
Right. And that is part of the reflection too, is that I think it helped me to realize that God cares even when you're being stupid. That's my best answer for that.
I think that that's probably the entire story of humanity.
Right?
So, um, so we've kind of taken these three things apart a little bit and kind of played with them a little bit. What did it take for you, particularly in this reflection piece, because that seems where all this real learning occurred?
Yeah.
How did you give yourself permission to spend time reflecting on that, or how did you encourage yourself to do that?
I think it was just really at first the disbelief that it worked, that he put the gun down, you know, like what the heck just happened? And so I had to reflect on that, like, wow, that is crazy that a person with a gun in your face will put it down when you say no. Like, that's crazy to me. So
Okay.
it was just needing to address why that even happened, you know?
So part of what drove your self-reflection was a desire to understand this weird situation that emerged.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and did you begin to do that by looking at what seemed incongruent for you, what seemed weird? If was that the only weird part of it, or was there more weird pieces?
Yeah, I think that was really it. Like, the reflection, that was the first one, but the others have gone on and on and on throughout my life as I really just, it led me to my passion, which is crazy, you know, to understand the difference between fear and love and the power of love over fear.
So this situation that was really scary at the time that it happened actually has proven to be a guideway for your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. So at what point did you realize that it was actually that this experience, while negative, was helping you move in a direction you wanted to go in?
I would say over the last 4 or 5 years is when I got really serious about studying love and fear, although all those little pieces were coming into place along the way.
So this has been a significant event that has provided 30 years of additional learning.
Absolutely.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think we've got enough here to begin to kind of play with.
Okay.
All right. So one of the things as I'm going through here, I'm beginning to sense kind of an overall pattern. But I really hate over directing what people discover. And so what I'd like to do is hand this to you, and I'm going to give you kind of a marker and ask you to kind of connect the pieces that make the most sense. And a lot of times people will try to connect everything that makes sense. What we're going to do is connect 3-4 things that make some sense to you. And if, as you look at this, you say, well, you know, this could be different, this could have been this, or you want to add things to it, you're more than welcome to do that. But what we want to do is look at these first 3 or 4 things that you connect, and then we'll take those and kind of see how we can use those intentionally moving forward.
Okay.
So here's the paper that I wrote on. Here's a marker. Here's a pen if you decide you want to edit something. Got 3 or 4?
Yeah, 3.
Okay, so what, no, don't give it back to me. This is, you're going to play with this. What are the 3 that you,
So I've got accepted responsibility for my friend, and God cares when I'm stupid, and love obliterates fear.
okay? Same again?
God cares when I'm stupid. I accepted responsibility for my friend, and love obliterates fear.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a separate sheet of paper. You can keep this for your note purposes.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is see if we can get you to craft a single statement where you kind of take those 3 and kind of mush them together without losing any of the meaning, and just kind of see if we can put it into a statement, those 3 things. All right? You get to read it.
Because I know that God loves me enough to protect me even when I do dumb things, it gives me courage to accept my responsibility and choose love, which obliterates fear.
Okay. So can we tweak it a little bit? Are you okay if we kind of play with it a little bit? So what I'd like to do is kind of move it into the present moment. So read it one more time.
Because I know that God loves me enough to protect me even when I do dumb things, it gives me courage to accept my responsibility and choose love, which obliterates fear.
Okay. Let's kind of, the smaller the statement we can make it, the easier it is going to be for us to work with it.
Okay.
So without taking any of the good stuff out of there, what would you say to shrink it down?
God's love gives me courage.
Okay, so I like it,
overcome
but
fear.
I'd like to kind of put it into kind of an action statement.
Okay.
So what do you do? How would I see you doing this? How would I know you were doing that?
I can't clarify it. Something about I trust God enough to choose love over fear. It sounds weak.
Does it? Let's write it out and let's see if it's how it sounds when you read it. Now read your amended statement there.
I trust God enough to choose love in the face of fear.
Okay. Say it one more time.
I trust God enough to choose love in the face of fear.
As you hear that, does it feel right to you? Or is it kind of still off?
It's not powerful enough.
So what would need to be added?
What if I just said God's love obliterates fear in me?
So let's keep the I statement.
I.
'Cause as you read that, what I'm hearing is a little bit different. So I'll share with you what I'm hearing, and you can, and then
Okay.
I might be totally off.
Okay.
The word trust, I think, is great, but I think you do more than that. You expect God's love to ... Is that congruent with this? Am I adding too much? Is it accurate?
I do like that word. I expect.
What do you expect?
It's like I expect power. I don't like that, how this is coming out.
Read your two prior statements. Let's see if we can put one
This
together.
whole thing.
Yeah, the big one, and then how you crunched it down.
Because I know that God loves me enough to protect me even when I do dumb things. It gives me courage to accept my responsibility and choose love, which obliterates fear.
Okay, and then you shrunk it down to...
I trust God enough to choose love in the face of fear.
Okay. To me, there was an expectation in that one. That's why I was suggesting I expect. What do you really expect?
I expect that love obliterates fear.
Okay.
Better than that.
Well, then that's great, but what does that look like? So I expect to feel comfort. Do I expect to feel protected? Do I expect to hear the angels sing? What's the expectation there?
Well, my experience was protection and power.
Okay.
So I expect protection and power.
Okay. Now, of those two, which is the one that's most notable, protection or power?
Power.
So if we eliminate protection out of it, how would it read?
I expect power when I choose love over fear.
Okay. Could you say it? I choose the power. I expect... Read it again.
I expect power when I choose love over fear.
Is it that you expect power, or do you expect to feel God's power?
Well, I feel like he gave it to me in that moment, so I expect power when I choose love over fear.
Okay, so
I think it makes more sense to say I feel. Yeah, I like expect. I expect God's power when I choose love over fear.
okay. So is this representative of something that you experience repetitively? I mean, you started reflecting on it after this experience, but have you had other experiences where that's how you've navigated it?
Absolutely.
So is that a common thing for you?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So let's flip it over and just write it on the page by itself. Okay, so read it to me.
I expect God's power when I choose love over fear.
Okay. So if you were doing that in a situation, how would I know you were doing it? What would I see?
Sometimes I just shout when I'm alone. I choose love when I'm feeling fearful. And I just feel a total change take place over me.
Okay, so we're gonna number this. So that's one. What is it that you do?
I
That
shout.
if I would
choose
see
love.
you do it, I'd say, oh, she's doing that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
What's the next? What would be number 2?
I do hard things when I decide to choose love over fear.
Okay, so
Or I,
before you can choose hard things, you have to recognize hard things, right?
yeah.
So would the next piece be I recognize difficulty, or is that not detailed enough?
Usually I'm like shaking with fear at this moment. And then I'm like, no, I can choose better. I can choose love. So I think like a better.
So feeling fear would actually go before 1.
Okay. So that's 2. That's 1. Feel terrified would be a good way to put that.
Okay, feel terrified.
Okay.
But you choosing to take action anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of reflective of what you did there. So what is it that you do that allows you to take action?
I'm choosing to I guess, find purpose. Like when I choose to shout, I choose love and get myself out of that place. It's usually because I realize that I have people to serve. And if I am too fearful to make this step to serve who I came here to serve, then what about them? So I think it's about finding my purpose, choosing my purpose over the fear.
So how do you do that?
I just ask myself, well, what about the people I came to serve?
Okay, so let's go back through it. Give the statement, do what your steps are so far, and tell me where that would fall in there.
I think feeling terrified would be first. Reminding myself of purpose, or reminding myself of the people I came to serve. And then 3 would be shouting, I choose love.
So would you summarize that into thinking of others? Or is it different than that?
You mean that second one?
Whichever order you're putting them in.
Yeah, it's about, I ask myself a question, like, I realize I'm in fear if I'm thinking, what about me? And so when I think, what about them? What if they don't get theirs? That's usually the question I ask. What if they don't get theirs?
So when you feel afraid, you ask questions.
Yeah.
So that's a different process than you've identified here.
Yeah, I mean, and reminding myself and asking myself.
So
Yeah.
start with the expectation statement again.
I expect God's power when I choose love over fear.
Okay. And first thing that you would do to put that into place is?
When I feel the fear would be to think about who I came to serve.
So, okay. So when you feel the fear, you think about who am I here to help? Who am I here to care for? Okay. And the second thing would be?
Shouting, I choose love.
Okay. Is that really the second thing you do? Or is that further on down the list? Or is it further up?
Well, I think of who I came to serve, and I ask myself the questions.
So the second thing you do, or maybe it's the first thing you really do, is ask yourself a series of questions to analyze the situation.
Yeah.
Would that be first?
After feeling terrified, yes.
Okay, so you feel terrified, you pause. You'd put that in there, but you pause. And then you start asking yourself hard questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would do 1, 2, 3, 4.
So my last question then on this is, how do you give yourself permission to act on the answers to your questions?
I think that when I know that I am choosing that love over fear, it just comes automatically. Like, I don't even feel like that is me anymore. When I am able to choose a love over fear, it just takes over. It's a power.
Okay. So again, but we're trying to make it really concrete.
Okay.
So read your first statement.
This one, I
Yeah, that
expect
one.
God's power when I choose love over fear.
And we would know you're doing that because we'd see you do 1, 2, 3. What's the first thing we'd see you doing?
Pause.
Pause.
After I feel terrified. Pause. Remind myself of who I came to serve. Ask, what if they don't get theirs? And then shout, I choose love.
Okay. It seems clunky to me still.
It does.
So just to make sure that we got this, you drive down from
Snowflake.
I always want to say Sholo, but yeah,
It's prettier,
Snowflake.
so I choose that anyways.
You come down through Snowflake, and you either come down through Salt River or you come down through Payson. But just imagine that you are really you really need to get someplace pretty quickly, and a situation, like somebody pulls out in front of you. It's really scary accident happens right in front of you. How would you're not involved in it, it's just right in front of you. How would you use this in that situation? Walk me through what you would do from your...
Well, so the first one, after feeling the fear, would be to pause and ask, who did I come to serve? So hopefully I would pull over and help whoever got hurt and whatever's going on, call police or...
Okay, so you take some action. What's next?
Then I shout, I choose love over fear. So that would be probably what I'd have to do.
Okay.
I mean, I see that one be too easy, that you just they need help, I'll go help them.
A lot of people choose not to do that.
Yeah.
So, and then what would be the next in your...
I think that was the last one.
Well, so walk through it again.
Okay, so I would, after feeling fear, I would pause and ask myself, what if they don't get theirs? Who did I come to serve? And then just decide to choose.
So, and I think there's read the second one there.
Ask myself, what if they don't get theirs?
Yeah, I think that's what's the awkward point for me. What I really hear you saying is, what do these other people need?
Yes, what is needed.
So that's a different question than what you're asking here. Would asking yourself what they need be better than that question, or is that a better?
It is.
So let's...
Okay.
So what's your process?
Pause. Remind myself of who I came to serve, ask what is needed, and decide to choose love. Shout.
So, okay. Those are pretty active, right? You get a call and one of your kids has been hurt at a school sporting event. How would you use this?
Well, I would probably go and find out what happened, and if it was on purpose, I might go talk to the school and confront what happened. Find out what was needed, Most of all, he needs my support. He needs
Okay.
to.
So read through the list.
Pause. Remind myself of who I came to serve, ask what is needed, and choose love.
Okay. Would that help in situations like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do another one. You have a family member that tells you they're going to get this divorce and it's going to be really nasty. How would you use that?
I think that I could just, when I focus on, what is needed, there's always two sides. So I think not taking a side and just being there to listen, to support whatever needs to happen.
So do we need to alter this a little bit?
As far as like listening,
I
think so, because when it comes to what is needed, this is the thing that I've learned lately is a lot of times what I choose, what is needed, is not what they need.
So how would you amend that then?
Ask what is needed.
Ask what is
Them.
needed. So, okay, ask them what is needed. Have you ever helped somebody and then they didn't want your help?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so now read your amended list.
Pause. Ask them, or remind myself of who I came to serve. Ask them what is needed, and then choose love.
Okay.
That really does change it, because choosing to love the way they need it is so different than what I might want to offer.
Yeah, I might be a person
huge.
that expresses love through the giving of goodies. Not great if somebody's a diabetic.
Right.
They don't get love from me.
Right.
So,
That's true.
are you comfortable with the way we've kind of got that together? Does it make sense?
Yeah. I like
So
that
if you
change.
were, what would you call that? What name would we put on this? When you're thinking of names, I always think of fun ones so they're easy to remember.
Mhm. What just keeps coming up is the what is needed, because I think that's what really got clarified to me is
What is needed?
what did they really need.
Okay, what is needed?
But that's kind of boring.
Well, could we just call it, what?
I don't think that would work. Just love.
Love?
Choose love, yeah.
Okay, so just love? Is that what, or
I would
just
say
love?
choose love.
Choose love, okay.
Yeah, that works.